basically comes from the body. All the stars in the galaxy are inside of our body, and we use these outer planets and stars and galaxies to look inside of ourselves. But actually we're talking about our bodies, and we're using astrology as the language to help connect us to our spirituality, to our diet, to health, and to our history. We're going to look inside of the brain. In particular, we're looking at the inside of the third ventricle of the brain, which is a fluid-filled space. And inside that fluid-filled space is the hypothalamus, and below there is the pineal gland. These are your brain cells blown up to about the size of a car. And below here is the pineal gland. Up above is floating this galaxy, as you would call it, celestial body. And it has little planets in it, it has a sun in it, it has moons, and they float and they have an orbit, and it tilts, and it moves sort of like what you would call a spaceship. Now I'm going to show you some of the movements of it. These are some of the movements of it. It has a swirling movement, here, and sometimes it develops a tail, and sometimes it moves clockwise and counterclockwise. In the lower picture here, you can see how it moves sideways, up, down on various angles. And that is the anatomical third eye, or the celestial body within you, the galaxy within you, your celestial presence that announces you as part of the universe, and the universe is part of you. Now this, of course, is the position in the Hotep, commonly called Escalapius by the Greeks. And all the ancient doctors were familiar with the science of astrology. It's part of our science, it's part of a language which we use to help connect a person to his body. He was, of course, the one who put together the compendium known as the Ibers Papyrus, and then we have other medical books, the Cahun Papyrus, which I'll show you down the bottom here. Cahun Medical Papyrus, which is a compendium of information about women's diseases. That's written around 1700 BC. Then we have 1600 BC, or before the Common Era, as we call the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which is about surgical textbook and anatomical inquiries. These are European names. These are the people who stole the book. And they don't call it a medical textbook, they call it a papyrus named after the paper. That's the same as calling the book that you get now a tree instead of calling it a book. And this is the Ibers Papyrus, is 1550 BC. And the man that I was pointing to, Imhotep, was known to be a magi, architect, a builder. He built the step pyramid, and a poet and a magician. This is in the third dynasty, 2780 BC, before the Common Era. That's a picture of a bronze statue of Imhotep. Now, we all study laws of rhythms and cycles, and that's why we always studied arithmetic first in African science. Arithmetic. We studied that first. Now, they took the Y and put an I so you wouldn't see the word rhythm. It's a study of rhythm. So we have A, I'm phonetically breaking it down, arithmetic. The first word A comes from da, which means the power of, like you say, the bird. It has the power of a bird. The chair, the power of a chair. And rith, which means rhythm. And rhythm is usually an orderly pulsation of beats. So orders, like cycles. It's a cycle of beats. And then we have matik. The matik is derived from the word metta, or metdu, which means God. So when we put the word together again and give its African definition, we get the power of the cycles of God, which you would call astrology or the Zodiac. So African scientists study arithmetic, law and order, cycles, the rhythm, the power of the rhythms of planets and cells. And then that led to the shapes that the cells form, or the galaxy, as you saw, the celestial body that floats above your pineal gland. Those shapes are the forms of geometric shapes. And these are earth patterns of order or cycles. because geo comes from the word earth, which earth has a pattern or order or cycles. And metri comes from the word medu or God. And we're again looking at earth cycles of God. So we're constantly studying the law and order of the galaxy, of the planets, of your blood, of the bones, of your health, which we call medicine. Now we know that this is all interrelated, these various cycles inside of your body. And let's look at the holistic chart once again, so you can see those cycles inside of your body. Now, let's look at the zodiac sign down the bottom. Let me raise that up for you so you can see much better. Now, over here we have the houses. Houses are in, this is zodiac language I'm getting into now. We're talking about a house. Houses, like, they're divided into 12. You see, we have the house here. This is what you need to do a zodiac sign. You have to have the date of the person's birth. You have to have the time they were born, the place, and then you have to know where that place is on the world globe. So you would have to know the latitude and longitude on the world map. And that gives you where the house is. And the sign, which could be a fire sign, a water sign, or air sign, and the planet's influences on that sign. We have fast-moving planets, which is like the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, and Venus. And we have slow-moving planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And they have the influences on these particular zodiac signs that actually influence your organs. We have Aries, which influences the eyes, and cerebellum, and then of course the note D flat is equated with that, and the color red. And the zodiac house is your first zodiac house is Aries. Then you have Taurus and Leo going around the zodiac signs. So now we have Aries. And then we have Taurus, which influences your neck and cerebellum and lower brain stem, and Leo, which influences your heart and thymus, and Libra, which is your kidneys and adrenals, and Cancer, your breast, veins, and arteries, Virgo, your intestines, liver, and pancreas. These are the body parts related to the zodiac sign. And this Sagittarius is the sciatic nerve and the thigh, which is your motor response, and Scorpio, which is associated with the sex organs, the genitals, or gonads, and Aquarius, which is associated with your lower leg, your colon, your bladder, and Pisces with your feet in circulation, and Capricorn, which is associated with your knees, your teeth, your bones, your kneecap, that sort of thing, and Gemini with the arms and the legs and the fallopian tubes. So each zodiac sign has influence on parts of your body. You are the zodiac is you. It's not something out in space. It's something that you carry with you every day. Now, I want to show you the positive and negative expressions of planetary principles. When I was talking about the planets, it has a positive expression. The sun, we associate it with radiation of your spirit, creativity and loving and pouring forth of self. The negative part of the sun is pride and arrogance and excessive desire to be special, to have attention. And we have the moon, this planetary influence is responsiveness, inner contentment, flowing, adaptability of sense of skill of self. And the negative aspect of that is oversensitivity, insecurity, inaccurate, inhibiting sense of self. And Mercury, next planet, creative use of skill or intelligence, reason, and power discrimination, use to serve higher ideals, ability to come to agreement through objective understanding and clear verbal expression. And the negative aspect of that expression is misuse of skills or intelligence, amorality through rationalization of anything, opinionated, and one-sided communication. You find a lot of people like that, and that's when they're in the negative aspect of Mercury. We associate Venus with love, give and take with others, sharing, generosity, and spirit. And the negative aspect is self-indulgence, greed, emotional demands, inhibition of affections. The next planet we were talking about is Mars, which is associated with courage, initiative, willpower, consciously directed toward legitimate aim. Negative aspect is impatience, willfulness, violence, and proper use of force and threats. As you can see, the Europeans are into this Mars on the negative aspect. Let me raise up the planetary chart for you so you can get a clear view. Now let's look at Jupiter, which deals with faith, reliance, higher power, greater plane or greater plan, openness, grace, optimism, openness to self, needs for improvement. The negative aspect is overconfidence, laziness, scattered energy, leaving the work to others, irresponsibility, overextending yourself, or promising to do much. That's being procrastinating. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You meet a lot of people that leave the work to others, and they enter the negative aspect of Jupiter. This Saturn is associated with disciplined effort, acceptance of duties and responsibility, patience, organization, and reliability. Negative aspect is self-restriction through too much reliance on self and lack of faith, rigidity, coldness, defensiveness, crippling inhibition, fearfulness, and negativity. Let's move to Uranus. Attunement to truth, originality, inventiveness, directed experimentation, and respect for freedom. Negative aspect is willfulness, restlessness, impatience, constant need for excitement, and purposeless change, rebellion, and extremism. Neptune, attunement with the whole, realization of spiritual dimensions of experience, all-encompassing compassion, living an ideal. Negative aspect is self-destructive escapism, evasion of responsibility and self-deepest needs, refusal to face one's motives, and to commitment to self and to anything. And Pluto, acceptance of the need to focus one's mind and will and power on one's own transformation, having the courage to face one's deepest desires. And the negative aspect is compulsive expression of subconscious craving, willful manipulation of others to serve one's own needs and ends, and ruthless using any means to avoid the pain of. And that's just some of the aspects of the planets. We're going to move on. We're just going over the background you need, but our ancestors applied this to their daily life. The astrology of Shechem of Shechem, or the Orion star. I'm going to show you how we classify this energy in African science. And make sure you're getting a good picture of it. Because we say Shechem of Shechemu, which is the Orion star, and we use Nit for wood, and Sebek is the crocodile, and Kepler the beetle, and Nu is water. We have the 7 color bands, which you call a rainbow, or they're the 7 color bands of the melanin crystal, which are equal to the 7 halls of Osiris. And we have the North Pole star, Pleiades, the 7-star system, the star at the peak of the constellation. Our ancestors used them in their daily language. We have the water lily and mandrake, which is a symbol of the 5th dynasty, which is a plant. This lily blooms the 3rd day, which is a solar cycle. The flower goes up 18 inches above the water, which is a galaxy cycle. It opens at 8 a.m., which is an earth cycle. It closes at noon, which is a moon, which is influenced by the moon and chlorophyll. And on the 3rd day, it goes below the water, which is, again, the solar cycle. And our ancestors related to that. Now, let's get into this energies, which we call Tifet classification chart. Now, we have north here and south here. North we call an Osiris, which is associated with hot, orange, energy spins to the right. And it's serotonin, which is a hormone produced in your body and during the day, associated with melanin. And it's used for catabolic, which means it destroys, adrenaline, which produces fight or flight energy. It's active. It has the carbon associated with this energy, acid state, daytime, electricity, and magnetic positive. All that's associated with Osiris, or north. And south is Isis, which is cold, indigo, bluish. The energy spins to the left, associated with melatonin, which is for growth and repair. As a growth hormone, it's anabolic, which means building, associated with sleep, oxygen, alkaline state, night, chemistry, and magnetic negative. Now we have the what we call the elements here: fire, earth, water, and air. They're used in the zodiac because they influence certain planets. We'll get into that as I talk more. Now, fire is called Afit. Afit is carbon, red, negative ion, vitamins, pungent taste, expands small intestines, heart, sour, taste, liver, and it contracts. We get into earth for top, which is associated with nitrogen, indigo, positive ion, minerals, bitter taste, strengthens small intestines and heart. Next we go over to air, which is Ma, associated with oxygen, yellow, negative ion, vitamins, sweet taste, retards pancreas and growth. We get into water, which is Mu'i, hydrogen, blue, positive ion, minerals, salty taste, softens the kidneys and sex organs. This is associated with Mu. We have Shu here, Nui here, Gib here, and Tefnut here. We have cold and moist, which is in the south, which means a person's personality to be cold and moist. And that person more lended toward having one large meal a day. Now we have Ptah, which goes to the black dot, Min, and we go to Atim. This is where you get the shape of the het that people have. You have the brim, which is Ptah, which Min brings builds the mountain for Ptah to sit on, Atim. And that gives you the shape of the het, which is actually a galaxy kind of shape, reinforcing our spirituality system. Hot is associated with active mind, which we call Ku, and dry is associated with a skinny active body, which we call Kat. And this is how we basically divide the energy, is Sephet, classification of energy chart. As you can see, we're using the terms in the Zodiac, our African terms, for the Zodiac to help explain that. As I mentioned before, we have these influences of the elements. And I was talking about the Pleiades and the stars earlier, and we use those stars even in our diagnostic language. I said Earth, which is associated with smell, and your large intestines, which is a solid. And we have planets that come under Earth. We have Taurus and Virgo and Capricorn, and we have water element, which is associated with taste in the small intestine. We have planets such as Cancer and Scorpio and Pisces, which come under water. And then we have fire. We have Aries and Leo and Sagittarius, which is associated with sight. And we have air, which is Gemini and Libra and Aquarius, which is associated with touch and the lungs. And all that helps us to reinforce our understanding of the Zodiac, but it also applies to our diagnosing of the body and the brain and the small intestine and large intestine. So we have the Sirius system here, which is called the star system. At the top you have the brain, the small intestines. You start drawing the star this way. You go this way, up, down, over, and across. So we start here with the large intestines and lungs, sends air to the brain, then we go down to the kidney and sex organs, then we go over to the pancreas and spleen, and then we go across to the liver. If the lungs are congested with mucus, that's cold, then treat the liver energy, the opposite of the arrow. So what the chart is saying, if the lungs are congested, then we go the opposite. We treat the liver with milk thistle or dandelion, and the liver breaks down the waste, which relieves the burden off the large intestines. The small intestine energy direction of the arrow going away from it. See, if something wrong with the lungs, we can also treat the small intestines, you see. And once you purify the waste in the small intestine, it takes the burden of the waste off the large intestines, which would recycle the water back to the lungs, so you get impure water going to the lungs. So we can help speed up the digestion with bulk and chlorophyll to help purify the small intestines, so it won't throw the waste in the large intestines, which will try to get rid of the carbon dioxide and waste through the lungs. And the pineal gland bonds the treatment in the body. So we can treat the lungs if they're congested by working on the liver or the small intestines. And the waste, of course, is going to be flushed out through the kidneys, because we get rid of 4 times as much waste through the kidneys as we do through the bowels. Now, how would you combine those herbs that you were using to treat this condition? We use the pyramid combining herb system. Again, we're coming out the pyramid clusters that are formed when you make rain. We have to have these clusters, so we're back into nature, back into the astrological basis of our life, which is inside of us. So we're going to treat this mucus congestion of the lungs. How are we going to do that? We're going to use this pyramid system. 2 parts, 1 part, 1 part. A part can be a teaspoon, a tablespoon, an ounce, or a cup. Now, we're going to use 2 parts mullein, 1 part elecampane or pleurisy or slippery elm, and 1 part chickweed, coltsfoot, horehound, or hyssop. So we could say 2 parts mullein, 1 part elecampane, 1 part chickweed. We combine all of them together to treat the mucus congestion of the lungs. So as you can see, this zodiac influence is a part of our treatment regimen. We never lose the language, and we never stop using the system, because it's all based on the universe. You have at the top here the energy flow in the universe. We have our universe, and up here we have the black hole, which some people call the black dot. And down the bottom we have the white hole. So we have our universe and the elsewhere universe, or the underworld, as our ancestors would say. Then you have this wormhole, and you have an outer even horizon here, and an inner horizon in there. And this is singularity right here. So we have this energy flow, the black hole, coming down through the wormhole to the white hole. That's time and space element that influences us. This is where you get this word black hole that you see, people sometimes you hear them saying, you wonder what they're talking about. They're talking about the black hole, your melanin center, which transforms and breaks down colors, and you see white light, but the white light is coming from the blackness. It's just the male and female. Now we know that we are part of the universe. We know that we are part of the planets. That's obvious to us because we know that the water moves in response to the moon. And us human beings are very watery. The amount of water in the human body averages about 65%. Men have more water than women. You have 83% water in your blood, 75% water in your muscles, 82% water in your kidneys, 22% water in your bones, 74% water in your brain. So anything that affects the water, its weight, its heaviness and lightness affects you. So you're connected to the water and the moon's influence on your water. In Africa we have a water season, we have a wind season which is called Shu, we have a dry season which is called Set. We have 4 seasons, 4 months to a season.